Okay, hello and welcome. Welcome to the Exploring Concord Pro webinar. My name is Lee Gorn. I am the Chief Software Architect here at Altium. A little bit of background about me. I've worn a few different hats over the years, working in embedded software and systems development in the automotive industry, and as a hardware development engineer across different verticals and or as an independent designer. I joined Toradex, the embedded computer module company, in 2010 as their Chief Technology Officer, and I co-founded the company SIBA, specializing in BOM management, which was spun out of Toradex in 2013 and acquired by Altium in 2015. For the last 4 years, I've been responsible for integrating a lot of the SIBA technology and services into Altium and building and delivering the underpinnings of what is the Altium 365 platform today. Altium has a fairly distributed development team spanning no less than 7 countries across 3 continents. I'm based in the UK, and with a couple of my European colleagues based in Germany, today we're going to give you a live tour through Altium 365 and Concord Pro. So let's get started. First of all, what is Altium 365? Okay, so if you haven't heard of it before, Altium 365 is our cloud platform. Its purpose is to make things easy for you by simplifying collaboration between all of the stakeholders in the value chain of electronics design and realization. The long-term vision is to connect design, manufacture, and supply chain in a way that really transforms the experience of designing and building electronics. Applications are designed to run on top of Altium 365, and our first application is Concord Pro. So, what is Concord Pro? Well, Concord Pro is a design data management application with a specific focus on component library management and the ECAD Mcad interchange. Concord Pro can be run on the Altium 365 platform. It kind of just works out of the box, or you can purchase it and run it on your own infrastructure, known as on-prem. So let's take a little bit of a look and talk about what are the benefits of hosting Concord Pro on Altium 365. Well, the Altium 365 platform is always on, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the exception of occasional nighttime or weekend scheduled maintenance windows. As it exists in the fabric of what is the internet, it means that you can connect to it from virtually anywhere on the planet, at any time and from any device. It is built on top of AWS, one of the world's largest cloud infrastructures provided by Amazon. Altium 365 uses redundant compute resources with multi-availability zone storage services spread across 4 independent regions, which means that we are able to provide great availability, reliability, scalability, and performance. By hosting Concord Pro on Altium 365, it just works out of the box. It's as simple as creating a workspace and away you go. Of course, you can host Concord Pro on your own infrastructure. So what does it mean to do this? Well, your own infrastructure means your own server hardware along with appropriate Microsoft Windows Server licenses in place. You'll need to take care of the maintenance and upkeep of this server, from making sure you make regular backups that are subsequently stored off-site, to ensuring that those backups can be restored and practicing disaster recovery scenarios, etc. You'll need to take care of operating system patches and upgrades. You'll need to monitor disk space usage, and as your company and all your needs grow, you may have to upgrade the hardware and provide additional storage support, or to provide more powerful computation resources to deal with that additional usage load that may come. And this is all before you're outside the confines of your company firewall. Of course, it's important in helping to make sure that what is outside the network stays outside, but when it comes to needing to work from home or access data from the airport lounge, things can get a bit more tricky. We soon get into VPNs to help to provide remote connection, often with slow speeds and or unreliable connections. The next stage is obviously needing to collaborate with other stakeholders in the value chain who are outside your company, which is inevitably required at some point. Then we're into secure file sharing and more tools and services to make that possible. Sometimes those are the most insecure mechanisms of communication that people don't think too much about. Sending those design files attached to an email or through some other file sharing service without password protection just to help with the convenience. Irrespective of how conscious we are of working with others, we all do it, and while some do it in a very structured, managed, secure way, many do not. This ripple effect to hosting Concord Pro yourself is not immediately obvious. I think for some customers it's extremely well understood. They do it for other things and have mechanisms in place for handling all of the aforementioned. But for many customers who may be new to this approach or are unsure what self-hosting requires, this should give some insight into the kinds of things that need to be considered. The way people work, the way people are working together has been changed in many areas of our personal and professional lives. And now people are demanding the same kind of experience and convenience in electronic design and everything that connects to it. And that's really why Altium 365 exists. Okay, so today we are going to take a few things to take a look at today, okay, in today's webinar. We're going to basically show you the experience of using Concord Pro on Altium 365. And there are a few different topics that we're going to cover. How to get up and running in just a few minutes, a single source of truth for your component data, component creation with the manufacturer part search panel and single component editor, component lifecycle management with validation, augmenting your data with pricing, availability, technical parameters and more, and bidirectional design data exchange and commenting with the Mcad environment. So we're going to do some ECAD, Mcad work there. So these topics, they're all going to be interwoven into a demonstration that we're going to give, and there's going to be three of us that are going to do this today. It's going to be myself, it's going to be Christian Keller and Nerek Debian, working together on a design to kind of show you how Concord Pro allows us to stay all connected and assume responsibility for different parts of that process. Okay, so let's get started. Just give me one moment. I'm going to switch to screen here. Okay, so very first thing, let's talk about getting set up with Concord Pro and really how straightforward and easy this is to do today. What you can do is you can come to altium.com/Concord, okay, and that's going to bring you to this homepage that we've got set up, which explains a bit more about Concord Pro, and there's some more information on here about licensing, talks a bit more about the Altium 365 hosting option versus the on-prem hosting option, etc. There's some getting started guides and also a list of webinars and things like that. Now, if you want to come in and get up and running, just simply click on this Try Altium Concord Pro in the top right. You're going to get this pop-up, which is going to lead you through a couple of simple questions. First of all, are you an existing Altium Designer user? I am. I'm actually already signed in here, so I'm just going to click through the next. It's then going to ask me a few questions. First one it's going to ask me, which is probably the most important one, is where I'm actually located. It's important to choose the location which is geographically closest to where you or your team is hosted, so you're going to get the best performance out of this. Okay, so I'm going to select Europe. Then there's a couple of other questions, just to get a bit more information about kind of what your existing processes, etc. We can click through these, provide a bit more information for us. And once we've done that, we can click on the Try Now button. What this is going to do is it's going to submit a request. Okay, and essentially what will happen is that we'll process that request on the back end, and we'll get your workspace, which is how we refer to a space which is isolated for you and reserved for you and your team. That will get provisioned on the back end. Okay, and once that's then up and running, you'll get an email. It should only take a few moments to basically tell you that that's in progress, and then when it's actually completed, you get another email telling you that it's been finished. You can then click on that link, and it's going to take you directly into the workspace itself. So I've actually already got one prepared, which I had earlier, which I'm going to switch into now. So you should be seeing that on your screens. So again, once you get that email, you click on that link, it's going to take you directly into this workspace, which is exactly what you can see here. So let me explain a little bit about what this workspace contains. First of all, on the home page, we've got a bunch of getting started kind of guides, videos, this kind of thing, resources that really are going to help you get acquainted and get accustomed to Altium Concord Pro. Okay, things about component creation, component editing, all of these kind of things, and a video about Mcad Collaboration, so on and so forth. Okay, library migration. So very useful resource on the home page. Now on the left hand side here we have a bunch of different options. Again, on the very far left we have these help and resources, some download links, documentation links and support links. So really again designed to help you kind of get up to speed with Concord Pro as quickly as possible. Right now we're just going to click on the team link because this is the one that shows me who is essentially part of my workspace. Okay, and this is where we can invite people to come in and essentially collaborate with us. So today I've got a few different users in here. Obviously got myself, a couple of colleagues that we're going to collaborate with. If I wanted to come in and add a new user, I could just simply come in, click add new user, add the email into here. Just add another email, which is myself, with another email address. Click that. We can also add roles, etc. here. So if you want to add someone as an administrator, or you've got other roles that you can also set up, like librarian role, mechanical engineer role, you can just start typing those roles here as well, and they will also prompt you. Okay, so we can then click on the invite button, and in this case I've actually started to invite someone who is outside of the organization. So this is where I've got a confirmation box pop up and ask me, okay, this person doesn't belong to your organization, would you like to invite them anyway? And I'll go ahead and click OK. And it's really as simple as that to bring people into the workspace to get them collaborating with you. So that's really the introduction into signing up for Concord Pro, getting a workspace provisioned, and adding a couple of users, showing you a bit about how the team membership side of things actually works through the web. Okay, so as the next step, what we're going to do is actually connect Altium Designer to Concord Pro. And what you should see now on your screens is Altium Designer. This is Altium Designer 20 running. It would look exactly the same as Altium Designer 9 and Altium Designer 19 as well. I've actually got many workspaces here, so this list is quite long. But you can basically see that we are now connected to this Concord Pro webinar workspace here. I could easily sign out of that particular workspace, come in, click again, and choose that one. And again, it will just connect quite quickly through that space. So it's very easy to switch between different workspaces that you may be a member of. You can do that quite simply through that connection up there. Okay. So I've actually got a bit of a test project here that we're going to run through today. One of the things I'll show you just prior to stepping into that test project is if you want to create a new project within your workspace, it actually uses the same kind of mechanism and process that you will be used to normally. You just click the File and you Create Project button. And what you'll see on this left-hand side is because I'm connected to the Concord Pro workspace, I actually get this Concord Pro webinar locations set up here on the top left-hand side. So this is what my workspace is actually called. So I can come in here, give the project a name, give it a description, and create the project just as you would normally. Now, there's a couple of options when you create the project. One is whether or not you want what we call formal version control enabled. So Concord Pro with Altium 365 supports Git version control under the skin. So if I check this, that will basically enable that storage capability for a particular project. Now, you don't have to do that if you're running with your own version control system. It might be something that you've got on site or a third-party hosted system. You can basically disable this checkbox, and it will create essentially the holder for the project there, and you can check it in and commit elsewhere. So that's a pretty straightforward thing to do as well. One of the other things that we can do through here as well is we can also select a particular project type, this is where we get into using project templates. So you may or may not be familiar with those, but this is essentially where we can create schematics and PCB layouts that have kind of like maybe company kind of standards to them. So they might be specific sizes, have specific grid kind of sizes using metric or imperial, have logos in the bottom right, and so on and so forth. So you can configure all of that so that when people go and create projects, they're using a standard set of templates. Okay, another really powerful part of the Concord Pro and Altium 365 system. Okay, so I'm going to cancel that because I've already got my project. And what you're seeing right now is this project here is called USB auth key. We've got a couple of different files in here. We've got one schematic, we've got one PCB layout document, we've also got a BOM document. I'll come back to the BOM document and the layout in a bit. But right now, we're looking around this schematic, and we're going to get a couple. We've actually got a couple of components missing. There's one up here in the top left, and there's some resistors missing here down the bottom left-hand side of the schematic. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have Christian, who is also connected to this Concord Pro workspace. I'm going to invite him along, and he's going to create us a couple of parts. He's going to walk you through the manufacturer part search system and the single component editor, show you how those work. Once he's created a couple of components from them, I'm going to give you a bit of a demonstration to show you how those components can be searched and used within their design. So I'm going to stop my screen share now and switch over to Christian.
So, hello everybody. You might have seen me already before on the screen. I will share right now my computer with you so that you can see my Altium Designer. And to prove that it's really a different version, as you have seen before, this is version 2007, which is the latest build of our beta Altium Designer 20. And Lee asked me to create two components for him. One is very simple, is a resistor. The other one is a little bit more complicated. To start something like this, you can go for the manufacturer part search and look out if you can find something there that fulfills your needs. So I'm going to search for component. I'm in the area of passive components at the moment because this resistor obviously can be found there, but there are quite many components in, so it's over 2 million data sets which I could find, and I'm of course only interested in the 220 ohms resistor. It's still 5,720 pieces I could find, and I will narrow down the search and saying, hey, what exactly am I looking for? I'm looking for a component in 0402 housing, only 256 components left. I will be interested only in components that do have a model for Altium Designer, that are deliverable, so components that I can order. They should be RoHS compliant, and I will go down for 5%, which is enough for me. So narrowing down all those things, I simply go for the first component I can find here, and I simply say I'd like to acquire this one. Right now, I have to tell in which component kind I'd like to have this in our own Concord Pro system. So I'm going for resistors here, and he will open right now automatically the component editor. He will download all data from internet that he can find for this component, which is the name. I could choose another one if I wanted to. I do have description automatically. I do have all those parameters. Partly they are driven from templates. Partly these are additional parameters. And if I do want to get rid of them, I can throw them away if I want to. I can find the data sheet here as well. So he's downloading this as well, saving it to Concord Pro. He gives me, of course, the manufacturer and the manufacturer part number, and tells me where I could get this component from, and if there is some stock. And quite some components are available here. And he's downloading as well a schematic symbol and footprints following IPC norm, 3 different kinds. But all this data can be changed by you if you want to. This resistor, for example, I'd like to have the name being visible as the value. And if I change something like this, I do have this change automatically here inside my component. And right now I already can go and say I'd like to save this component to the server. Right now it was something local on my machine. This is the first release. So usually if you go for a second revision or a third revision, you would type in what the changes have been. And right now he is saving the data to the central Concord Pro system on Altium 365. So this was the first component, but we have to go for a second one. And if he's done, no messages, which is good because we would see mistakes here if some happened. I'm going for a new component right now, doing it a little bit a different way. It will be a memory device. It will be an AES encrypted memory device. And Lee told me is what device he wants to see from me. It's a device from Atmel. And he has been quite precise. He wants to have especially this part. And again, I get some information from Octopart, from Siva, all the data that's searched via internet, but unfortunately, this time I did not get a schematic symbol. I got some parameters, fantastic. I got the data sheet, and inside this data sheet, of course, I would find all information necessary to create the schematic symbol and the footprint, and of course, the part choices are filled with live as well. But how to do the schematic symbol? Well, I could go for something which is already existing. Well, not for this device, of course. I could create something manually, or I could go for the wizard. And I will go for this wizard. And right now I can enter all necessary information in this mask to automate everything. I prepared everything in Excel. And here we are. This is what my component should look like. So fantastic thing. You can copy and paste the information from an Excel sheet, from PDF inside this wizard as well. Say okay, and the component somehow is done. There will be a designator, which is U question mark, and the name is fulfilled here, inserted here automatically. I can save this one. And I can go back to my component. Right now, I only need the footprint here, same game, doing it manually, using something that exists already. I'm using the wizard here again. So we are going for an SOIC housing. Right now, I have to type in all the data that I do find in the data sheet, which is some 10-ish values that have to be entered here, but I have to go only for the number of pins and for the body length, and I will be fine. And if I want to do a favor to Lee, I'm going for a step model, which looks much, much nicer. All those other things can be done automatically, calculated automatically, and we go with a medium density following IPC norms. All the rest can be calculated automatically. I don't have to take care about this. And what I usually do, I'm modifying things like this to have my pin 1 being rectangular. And I think we are quite fine right now. Everything's in, saving this one as well. Going back for my component, so I have schematic symbol and footprint. I can go and save this component to the server. And this is the point where I say, usually I would type in something with more use, of course. This is a point where I could go and hand over to Lee. So I will stop sharing my screen in a second. If everything's cleaned up, we see that everything worked fine. So the component should be in. Let's do the check if it's really working this way. I stop sharing my screen. Lee, can you get those components already? So you're online right now and can go for your Altium design again.
Yep, just give me 1 second. Thank you very much, Christian, for that. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again now, and we'll switch back to, so you should be able to see Altium Designer here. Okay, so Christian's created those parts, has released them, so they've basically been released into exactly the same workspace as the one that I'm connected into. And like I mentioned before, there's a couple of parts that are currently missing from my schematics, and those are the ones that he's created. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of the components panel, okay, at the moment, talk about this. So this is the primary way within which you can actually connect and pull components out of the component library and put them into your design. Okay, it's docked on the right-hand side at the moment, and what you'll be seeing in here is essentially a list of components. At the very top here, we can actually start to filter them by component type. So I've got various component types configured in here at the moment. You can see things like standard capacitors, diodes, resistors, ICs, and then even under ICs, we've got like another subset or level of hierarchy for things like amplifiers, drivers, interface, logic ICs, all that kind of thing. So I can click on these and quite simply filter by component type, quite simply there. All of these components, columns should I say, are completely configurable as well based on component type, so we can set those up to your personal preference. All right, and as we scroll down here, now what I'm going to do is, as we select one of these parts, you can see in the bottom here, we can actually get a look into some more details about a particular part. So we get things like all the parametric data, we get the models, we get the footprint, and also the 3D model shown here as well, which we can preview in this part. We've got part choices, and I'll come on to talk about those a little bit more later. And then we've also got a where use feature, which I'll also show you how that works. In fact, let's take a quick look at that now. So if we go back to the all, I'm going to search for something like 10K 0402, and we'll get a bunch of different results shown up here. See, it's a very quick search. The way that I can search for things, I don't need an exact part number here. I can just search based on a subset of description or some parametric information. So here it was based on resistor value and case size. And then when we select a particular results, the full results that I got, I can actually start to scroll down and see different information again on this particular part. So in this case, the way use shows me that I've actually got 3 projects within my system where that particular component is used. So this actually becomes very, very powerful. You can imagine when you've got a lot of parts and a large number of projects, trying to understand where a particular part is used and what what designs it may impact if something were to happen with that part. Is really, really easy. All that information is presented to you right here on the components panel. Okay, so slightly little detail there. What we're going to do now is I'm going to actually search for that ATAES part that Christian made for me a moment ago, ATAES. And there we go. You can see as I'm typing, it's automatically searching for that result. And this is the one that he created for me earlier. Okay, as you can see, this is the symbol, there's the nice 3D step model that he had added for me, and the site footprint, etc., with the part choice. So all I'm going to do now is just place that into my design. Just going to throw that one in. And what I'm also going to do is now throw a couple of resistors. I've got those also missing from the schematic, so we're going to go and pull those as well. Again, I'm going to take, copy and paste exact part number to show you how the part number search works. And so here, part number search, again, pretty quick. What I'm going to do is just paste these into the design, as you can see. And we have our completed schematic at this point. So I'm just going to real quick go in and annotate the schematics. And there we have it. So we're in pretty good shape. One of the things I will do is just put some no ERCs on these pins, just to make sure the compiler doesn't flag up any no connected errors for me. And I should be in pretty good shape. So let's go away and right now I'm going to compile this. Now in 8020 we do have a dynamic compilation function on as well, so that will actually compile in the background. Now what you're seeing here is the compiler's actually giving me some warnings. So what has it been warning me about? Well, I've actually got things set up to give me a fatal error based on the component lifecycle. So one of the things that we can do with this system, if I right click on this part and go to our actions show on the server, let's actually go and take a look at this part in more detail. So With Concord Pro, one of the very powerful capabilities of it is that we can set up life cycles essentially for parts. And this allows us to essentially associate a state with a part. So a part may start off when we first create it as a draft part. If we use that in a prototype design, we might want to set that into prototype. When it comes back from prototype and we know it's all good, we might want to set it into another state to say that it's been used. And then when it's successfully used in production, we might move it into a production state. And those states are completely configurable. I can show you real quick how to do that. Just in the settings part, if we go to servers, in the properties part of this panel here, you've got life cycles. And through here, we've got different lifecycle definitions. So the one that I'm going to talk a bit more about now is this component lifecycle definition. And you'll see we've got draft, prototype, production, and obsolete. Now the system's been set up basically such that if I've got any components that are marked as obsolete in my design, then the compiler's going to flag a fatal error. So essentially preventing me from using parts that are obsolete and bringing them to the forefront, to my attention. And that's exactly what I'm seeing there. Okay, so those are the 4 parts. There's actually 4 of them used in the design. See there, we can just double click on them quite easily to go through and find out where they are. We've also got a pretty powerful tool called the item manager, which allows us to do this and see us kind of holistically across all of the schematics for all of the parts that have been used. And again, as soon as I open the item manager, I can see that I've actually got 4 of these parts that are actually marked as obsolete at the moment. Okay, so pretty powerful feature that. Now I'm going to move forward. One of the things I'm actually going to do right now is change this configuration real quick. So again, what we can do is configure the error reporting for these kind of things. And like I say, we've got this violation associated with components, which is component revision has inapplicable states. So that basically is, we can set which states would flag this error. In this particular case, I've got obsolete as the state, which has been set up to flag the error. So what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to change this just to be no report for the purposes of going through the ECO and updating the layout. So we run that, and you'll see that those compiler warnings go away. Okay, so let's move on real quick. So next step I'm going to do, I've annotated the schematic. I'm actually now going to go and update the layout. Okay, so we run the standard ECO process, just as you would be used to normally. Run through, validate the changes. And you can see once we've executed them, one of the really nice things that we get is nice green check marks. So no check marks saying footprint can't be found or anything like that, a problem with components. And this is one of the really nice things about having, proper managed components, is the fact that we can be certain that we've got, the right parts, they're in the right state. They've got all of the ECAD entities like the footprint, so on and so forth, associated with them properly. Okay, that's what we've got. Okay, so I've now just dumped a bunch of components into the design. Let's go and move some of these around quickly. Just going to put them real quick into a position where they, just going to get rid of that room, which I don't need, and move some of these over. Now what we're going to go and do as the next step is we're going to have a little bit of a look into the ECAD Mcad collaboration side of things. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Now what I've just done is use the standard save mechanism, which is save the design locally. But as I'm using formal version control here, what I can also do is, well, I'll explain a little bit about how that kind of works and what you're seeing here. So if you look at the project in the top left-hand side, you'll see I've got some different icons. I've got a green check mark on one of the documents, and then I've got these round circles on the other ones, which basically means they've been modified, but those changes have not been committed and they've not been synchronized with the Concord Pro workspace. So one of the things I can do to do that, when I'm actually, I've made the changes that I want and I want to push those back, I can right click and just go save to server. Okay, so we're going to go away and commit and push. I'm just going to say put a little comment in here, always good practice, added some components, do the design, and I'm going to go and commit and push. So what this is doing is that's committing the changes to the local Git repository, and it's then pushing those changes up to the Concord Pro workspace. Okay. and that's all taken care of now. And you can see through these green check marks that we're completely synced with what's on the server side. Okay, right, so as a next step, I'm going to give you a quick introduction into the Mcad Co-Designer panel, okay? So what this essentially allows us to do is, through Altium 365 and Concord Pro, we have a really easy way of connecting the ECAD and Mcad domains, okay? So I've got this Co-Designer panel inside the Altium Designer, which is obviously on the ECAD side of things. And then we've actually got plugins that sit natively in applications on the Mcad side of things. And we support 3 tools today, Autodesk Inventor, PTC Creo, and Dassault SolidWorks. And the one that we're going to actually give you a demo of today and show you how it works is Dassault SolidWorks. So I'm going to quickly show you on the ECAD side what we need to do to allow the Mcad side to kind of come to life. And then I'll invite Narek to come on and show you exactly how that works in the SolidWorks side of things. So we've got this notion of push and share. So what we can do here is just click on this push button. And this is essentially what it's doing is it's going to take a snapshot of the design as it exists today, and it's going to push it into a space, a special area of my workspace where the Mcad tool can actually connect and pull that down. So what I'm going to say is add a comment here, just telling the Mcad designer, okay, things are completed on my side. Please go ahead and create an enclosure. I'm going to go ahead and post that. So we get a progress bar up telling us that we're pushing that design. Should only take a few moments to do so. And what you'll see is that that comment should then appear in the list of activity. This was actually a board that I used a while ago, so we've already had a couple of pushes backwards and forwards. So now you'll see that right now that comment's just appeared. It's my name there, saying it's just happened. Now Narek should actually have access to that. So I'm going to stop my screen share. I'm going to pass it over to Narek, and he's going to talk through a little bit about the Mcad side of things. He's going to show you how he can add an enclosure to the assembly, and then afterwards we'll pull it back to the ECAD side of things. So Narek, over to you.
Thank you, Lee. Just let me show my screen here. Okay, so now I'm sharing my screen. I hope you're receiving well. So, okay. So as you have seen from ECAD side, you had the same panel. Now it's the same mode of collaboration, just I've connected with my to the server to a Concord Pro. Then I have got the same panel here, which is a Altium Co-Designer. So it is SolidWorks 2019. And I will go to the plugin which I've installed. It just appears here, right? Altium Co-Designer. So now I'm just going and pull the board from Concord Pro. So I see it just right here, and I will just take it here. Okay, so I'll just save it on my PC. Then wait, since the ports, 3D models and the board, everything is pulling down on my SolidWorks side. Yeah, I've been before, you know, the panel we had doing some work, you know, going to export, import the data, the communication, which we have done. So it was really tedious. Today with the panel we have here, so we really see the seamless collaboration with ECAD Mcad. So now it's fine. So I see the board which has been sent by Lee, and I'm going to insert the enclosure I've made for this project. So here is my enclosure. So now let me just create the board outline I have here. So for this, just I'll go and, you know, I have a different profile and I see it's a little bit bigger than I have. So now I'm just going to align the USB stick, but before, just I would like to, fix the connector jack, which will allow me to not move the component here. And then let's do some very basic, using very basic functionalities for SolidWorks to this alignment operation. So let me just do this again with these two mates. Okay, good. Now I will just use it here, which is fine. And as you can see, I have another one. At least I need 3 points here. Just before to go there, so I don't need this mate anymore. I'll move it, and let me just take this side and with this side, and okay then. So I will just do this. Okay, here. So just the last thing, I'll do it here. Okay, so it's now I'm pretty much okay with this. Okay. Okay. Oh, not really. So let me see here. What is okay? So go here, and so just in a very quick way, I'll just once. Oh, yeah, but somehow when we have enclosure, which is very complex shape, so it's getting really complicated. Okay, so here we are. Now I'll accept this again. Okay, so now let's see what we have here. Okay, so just I'll show you the part. Okay, so the alignment is now fine here. So I will go on what I'm going to do now. I'll be based on the profile I've created with my enclosure here, and with the convert function, I'm going to create a new board shape here. Okay, so now I'm fine. Okay, so it looks fine here. And even though I can show it here this way. Okay, so here I see very closely that everything is fine for my board, but the moment I'm not really care about the other components positioning. So I'm fine to push the board, which is finished, to Lee. So in the same manner, I'll go into push button. It's just one button action, and say board outline done. So in a few minutes, I've just made the board shape based on the profile exactly, which was from my enclosure. And now I'm sure that the routing and positioning of the component will be perfectly aligned with my enclosure. So it's fine. Now I'm just stop sharing and give a hand to Lee.
Okay, thank you very much, Narek. Thank you very much for doing that. I'm going to now revert back and share my screen with you. Okay, so you should be seeing Altium Designer again now. Right, so as Narek just explained, he's put an enclosure around my board, and he's also adjusted the board shape at the same time. And When you push that back, you will now see that in the Mcad Co-Designer panel in Altium Designer, I've automatically got a prompt which has popped up, which has said, from Narek, board outline has been done. So what we can do is come in here and view these changes. Okay, so this is now actually going to be pulling those changes back from the Mcad side of things. One of the things that we can then do is highlight each of these objects, and you can see actually on the design in real time what it's actually impacting. Okay, so we can actually now put this into 3D mode, for instance, and I can see that there's actually going to be a new enclosure come back into this as well, and that the board outline is also going to change. Right, so we'll go back to 2D. What I'm going to do is apply both of these. Let's see that we now have not only the enclosure pulled back inside AD, but also the board outline has changed based on Narek's changes as well. So that's really a quick overview of how the ECAD Mcad collaboration works, and just shows you how seamless that kind of exchange backwards and forwards can be between the ECAD and Mcad engineers. All right, so at this particular point, I'm pretty happy with those changes. What I'm going to do is right click, again, save to server. So again, this is going to save things locally. It's going to commit them to my local repository before then pushing them back up into the Concord Pro workspace. Okay, so again, just takes a few moments for that to happen. You'll see that that is now complete. Okay, one of the things that I'm now going to show you, I'm going to switch over into the web browser. Okay, so this was my workspace earlier. I showed you, I clicked on the team button, I showed you a little bit about the team. But one of the other cool things that we have in here is obviously not just the ability to manage teams and these kind of things, but also to do full visualization of the projects. When I say full visualization, I mean looking at schematics, layout, and everything within the tool, so within the browser. So let's take a quick look at that. First of all, I'm just going to refresh this home page. You'll see that I've got this USB auth key project, which has just been updated. I've just refreshed it. For each one of these, we get, for each project that you can see, we've got this nice kind of 3D tile, which gives an overview of the actual board itself here. So we can come in, double click. This is then going to go away. It's going to open up a new browser tab. And what we're going to get is a kind of an AD look and style or look and feel kind of view to the project. That's going to show us on the left-hand side, it's going to have a projects panel. On the right-hand side, we're going to have a comments panel as well. This is loaded. Okay, so it just takes a moment for that to be brought up. Okay, so we can see on the left-hand side, again, we've got the schematic document, PCB document here. I can actually come in, browse my schematic, click on a particular part, like this one here. On the right-hand side, I'll then get this properties panel pop up, and this gives me a bunch of information about that particular part. Various part properties, gives me some information on pins and so on and so forth. Again, I can click on the PCB doc and come in here and see the PCB layout as well. So we can control all the layer selection on the bottom of the view window here. It's again very similar to the way that we would control layers in Altium Designer, so very familiar for AD users. And we can also see this thing in 3D as well. So I've actually got the enclosure on here, so we're getting the kind of full visualization exactly as we would see it inside AD. And again, this is really fast, really quick to use. So one of the other cool things I want to show you about this browser is that as well as it being, it's not really just for consumption, we've also got a kind of collaboration capability here. And what I mean by that is it's pretty easy for me to come in and actually make some comments on this. So you can see this little toolbar on top. We've got this ability to comment on object, comment on area, or comment on freehand, just essentially drawing a freehand comment. What I want to do is actually select this. I'm going to actually make some comment on this switch. I'm just going to come in here and say, need to double check this switch and post that comment. Now, if we switch back to Altium Designer, I can also open the comments panel, and you'll see that that comment appears immediately in Altium Designer. So the really, really good thing about this is that whether you're adding comments in the web, whether you're adding them in Altium Designer, whoever's kind of looking at this design and wanting to mark it up, we have this real-time ability to basically not miss anything, as it were. So again, I can also put comments inside Altium Designer. They show up exactly the same on the web. So I can also respond here saying, okay, we'll take a look. And you will see again that comment appear right in the web browser. And Christian, who's also playing around with the design, has also commented, I see, all fine as well. So you can see that he's also got access to the design and can do as he will too. Okay, so it's a bit of a quick overview of the web browser side of things. As you can see, pretty powerful capability there as far as collaboration goes. All right, so in terms of what we were looking to review today, just have a bit of a recap in terms of what we've actually gone through. We've obviously talked about how to get you all up and running really quickly, talked about component creation, show you the manufactured part search panel and the single component editor. We've talked a little bit about component life cycles and how powerful they are in terms of controlling your design and the release process of your design, making sure that you're not using parts that you don't want to use on it. We talked a little bit about pricing. The components panel will show you a little bit about the where use functionality and essentially how you can have an overview of the component kind of holistically. One of the other things I'm going to show you real quick now, in case you weren't aware, is the active BOM side of things. So I did mention before about the concept of part choices, and this is quite an important one because using active BOM, obviously, when it comes to getting a design built, if you can't source the parts, you cannot build the design. So supply chain availability, this kind of thing, is a really, really important thing. And we saw a little bit earlier in the components panel where we had the part choice kind of associated with the component, and this is where the kind of part choices come to life inside active BOM. So what you're looking at now is an active BOM document that lists all of the parts that we actually got used in that design today. And again, you can see that these parts that are used are in the revision state obsolete. So again, I get this holistic kind of overview of the state of the parts throughout the entire design at this point. I can also see the manufacturers, manufacturer part numbers, and the supply chain solutions for each of these two. You go and click onto one of those, you get a kind of master detail view here, and on the bottom pane, we're looking at the solutions that we can select or that we have associated with these particular components. And what you'll see for this particular one is that we actually have two. So this is an example where we've got the ability to handle kind of multi-sourcing quite easily and quite powerfully within the system itself. Here we've got a primary solution which is set up to be this KeyMet one, there's a secondary one which is Murata, and we've got our favorite suppliers that are also completely configurable here. So again, we can select which suppliers that we're interested in actually getting pricing and availability data from. So if we only, for instance, we only procure from DigiKey or from Farnell or from Mauser, we can configure all of that as well. So it's also completely flexible. And on the right hand side in the properties panel, what you'll see is a bunch of information giving a summary of what's actually in active BOM. So we get things like the price per board, we can do things like change the production quantity, change currencies, and so on and so forth. So active BOM, really, really powerful way, especially in combination with managed components, of making sure that before you release that design to go to manufacture, everything is in good shape. Now, one thing I do want to mention is with regards, just as a wrap up, with regards to manufacturer lifecycle, one of the things that we're doing, we're constantly improving the source of this information. So in the very near future, we'll also be using IHS as a data source for the manufacturer component lifecycle. So you'll also see another good step change in the kind of capability and resolution of manufacturer lifecycle information that we provide through ActiveBOM. Okay, that pretty much wraps it up, I think. Covered everything that we said that we would today. So I really hope that that's been of use for everyone here. And I think we've got a few minutes up until the end. So if there's any questions coming in, happy to answer them as best as I can now. Okay, so one question from Vince. Is there any elegant way for Concord Pro to manage a project checked into an external Git server? At the moment, if you've got, with 80/20, if you've got Concord Pro and you're using an external Git server, then Concord Pro can, or Altium Designer can work with that Git server. So you can still from within inside, commit changes to that project and so on and so forth. And you can make Concord Pro aware that your version control is actually not being done by Concord Pro, but by an external Git server. So, but one of the things I will say is that we're continuing to improve that integration. So things like enabling Concord Pro to better integrate with that Git server to the point of being able to do things like render project previews, know when check-ins and know when commits and pushes have occurred, this kind of thing. That's all in the works, and we'll continue to see better and better integration with external Git servers, and specifically with external Git service providers on the web too. Okay, got loads and loads of questions coming through here. Just have a look. Is it possible to release a design to manufacturer and have a way to communicate BOM change or PCB change to the manufacturer once the board is in production? Will the manufacturer need a license? Okay, this is a good question. I talked a little bit before about how we're better connecting, or Altium 365 is really designed to connect deeply into that manufacturing space over time. And at the moment, it is indeed possible to release a design and then share that with your manufacturer. And the way that that would work is such that your manufacturer would actually get an email link to a portal that they will be able to navigate to and view various information on the project. So things like the vital statistics of the project, they'll be able to see previews, the 3D models. There's also a Gerber viewer in there as well to allow them to inspect the Gerbers. They'll be able to mark up and comment those Gerbers, all of those things. And that exists in 365 today as well. We are working on more things there with regards to specific BOM changes. So for instance, being able to do diffs between BOMs is something that's going to be on the roadmap to, if you make a new rev of a particular board, traditionally the manufacturer's obviously going to have to go through different spreadsheets, or maybe you're going to have to call them out in an email. We'll again make that much easier for them to visualize what the deltas are between different designs. So that's something that's coming. So the default library structure by component type, was that my personal setup? This is one that basically what I was showing you today was actually largely based off of the sample data that we actually provide as part of the workspace. So once you get a workspace provisioned, generally we don't give you something that's totally empty. There is an option to do that, but we give you something that's already got some data there. It makes it much easier to explore, understand, and learn how the system works. And it is possible to actually clean up a lot of that demo data or example data as a secondary step. So what you're seeing today was the component type configuration as we have it defined in that sample data. I haven't changed anything with regards to that. How can I migrate existing projects on other PCB design softwares into Altium? We actually have some pretty powerful importers today that allow you to take designs from a range of other ECAD tool providers and pull them into the AD world. You can do that for Allegro, you can do that for Eagle, you can do that for a range of different tools that are out there. And that's all included as part of the Altium Designer tool, as it were. That's also an area of focus where we're putting quite a lot of emphasis on enabling people to come in and reuse as much of their existing IP and design assets as as possible. We know that people go and invest an awful lot of time building these things up, so you want to be able to reuse them as much as you can. So it's another area of big focus for us. Okay, I've got loads and loads of questions coming in. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to take these away. We'll make a note of them, and of course we'll come back and get back to you guys as best as we can with some answers for them. So unfortunately we have run out of time for today. I really appreciate everyone coming and bearing with us for an hour. I really hope that's been useful. Hope we've given you a good insight into 365 and into Concord Pro and how it may be able to work for you. And please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact the support, contact the sales rep, or come onto the forum. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you all again soon.